everyone, Miko here with Behavior Analyst Supervisor. Thank you for joining us for our free Wednesday Zoom calls. Here you're watching on YouTube, but you could also join us on Wednesday. If you're interested in the link to these calls to join live, feel free to send us an email at info@behavioranalystsupervisor.com. You can also just check out our Instagram. We post questions every single day on Instagram. We also post the link to our free Zoom calls. Every Wednesday, we go through a different task list item area, such as A1. We'll talk a little bit about that task list item, and then we'll go through 3 mock exam questions relating to that task list area. We hope that this provides an opportunity for you to learn a little bit more about the task list and also dive deep into question dissection. We here at Behavior Analyst Supervisor really focus on providing explanations on why an answer is correct and why it's also incorrect. So we appreciate that you joined us. If you have any questions throughout the duration of this video, feel free to shoot us an email, hit that like and subscribe button for more information. Also, you can always leave a comment and we'll be sure to reach back out to you. Thanks again, and I'm Miko with Behavior Analyst Supervisor. You'll also be hearing from Amy and Kevin. Talk to you soon. Hey, how's everyone going? Miko here with Behavior Analyst Supervisor. Welcome to our free Monday Zoom. This used to be our free Wednesday Zooms, but we switched it. We were hoping that the time change makes it a little bit more accessible for folks. So we hope that y'all appreciate this time change. And I had a class on Wednesdays now, so I couldn't do it on Wednesdays anyway. So honestly, that's kind of the reason why we switched it. So like I said, my name is Miko. I'm the Director of Customer Support here at Behavior Analyst Supervisor. I'm also a BCBA. I tell people I got 100% on my test because you don't get a score when you pass. I'm just kidding. I did not get 100%, but you definitely don't get a score when you pass. So I do sometimes maybe tell people that, but it is what it is. During these free Zooms, what we do is we either pick a singular concept and then we kind of deep dive into that singular concept, or we pick like one of the task list items and then we go through it briefly. So first we do just a slight bit of teaching, and then after we do that little bit of teaching, we go ahead and we jump into some scenario questions. So we'll either have 3 or 4 mock exam questions, and we will do a little bit of question dissection together. We have a whole bunch of these on YouTube, and we always post these on YouTube after. I think I actually have a backlog of ones to post, so I will get on that this week. If you ever have a topic that you want to go through and you're like, hey, we haven't got to this yet, or you did it, but I want you to do another one like it, feel free to send us a DM on Instagram. I do keep a running list of things that we're gonna be going through. So without further ado, today we're talking through B11. Specifically, we're just going to talk through the discrimination piece of B11. So we're not talking through generalization or maintenance. We'll do those next Monday. Today, we are just going to talk through the discrimination piece. So I'm going to go ahead and stop my video because when my video is on, it records over my face and or it records my face over the presentation when I post to YouTube. So that's what I'm going to do, and then we'll go ahead and get started. For those of you that stick around towards the end, we do give away a free mini mock at the end of this. So if you stick around, you do have an opportunity to win that. All right, so B11 is, first off, section B is one of the bigger sections of the task list. So there are 32 questions that come from section B. So this is a very important part of your study. There are 35 questions that come from section G, so that's also a giant part of your study. So you want to make sure that you're really honing in on those. That doesn't mean that you should solely focus on B and G, but it does mean you should focus on those pretty intently. So that's kind of where that's at. So B11, discrimination. There are a few different types of discrimination that we are going to cover. First and foremost, we're going to go through stimulus discrimination, stimulus control, simple discrimination, and conditional discrimination. Simple and conditional do have their own spot in G, but they could come up here in B as well. So I wanted to go through it. Whenever we teach things, what we like to do is give you a definition, and then we like to give you an applied example. So that's just what I'm going to do. Our definition of stimulus discrimination: when a behavior occurs reliably under one set of antecedent conditions and not in the absence of that antecedent condition. So I'll go through an example in a minute, but again, stimulus discrimination, this is kind of like the overarching goal. This is high level. It's when a behavior occurs under one set of antecedent conditions and not in the absence of it. You stop at a stoplight, you don't stop when the light's green. If you live in Florida, you speed up when the light's yellow. That's what people do here, right? That's stimulus discrimination. Then we have stimulus control. Stimulus control is a prerequisite to stimulus discrimination. Sometimes it's difficult to tell the difference between these in a scenario question because one requires the other, right? In order to have stimulus discrimination, we need to first have stimulus control. Stimulus control is when a stimulus reliably evokes a behavior, right? Today is Monday. As soon as we get off here, I'm turning on Monday Night Football because that's what I do on Mondays. So Monday Night Football evokes my TV turning on behavior. That's stimulus control. Stimulus discrimination would be turning on TV on Monday night to watch Monday Night Football, but not turning on Monday Night Football on Tuesdays because I'm not going to be watching anything. There's only like one Tuesday game throughout the year. So that would not be something advantageous for me to do. So that's the difference, right? Stimulus control is just a singular behavior, whereas stimulus discrimination is kind of the overarching goal, the big thing, and it should talk in the scenario about both antecedent conditions, So that's that. Stimulus control, we just talked about, and then we're going to talk about simple and conditional discrimination. I think of simple discrimination as the three-term contingency. So the three-term contingency is SD, behavior consequence. You only get reinforcement if you engage in the appropriate behavior, right? So simple discrimination is only one SD operating. For example, the definition, when one stimulus condition controls a behavior and results in reinforcement. So if I say like, touch your head, and then you touch your head, there's only one SD, it's just touch your head. Or if I say, go grab a pair of socks, that's simple, right? You just got to get a pair of socks. Doesn't matter if they're high or long or short or black or whatever, they just need to be socks. And so that's simple discrimination. Then we have conditional discrimination. This is when one stimulus condition is dependent on another stimulus condition, and those stimulus conditions together control a behavior and result in access to reinforcement. So again, this is like the four-term contingency, but instead of MO-SD, behavior consequence, it's SD behavior consequence. And what I mean by that is you have two SDs operating. When I tell you, go get a pair of black socks, black is one SD, socks are another. You're only getting reinforcement if the socks you bring are black. So the socks are dependent on or conditional upon them being black. And then you get reinforcement for both of those. Hot water, right? Not only do you have to get me water, but it needs to be hot. There's two SDs operating there. So that's the difference. Let's go through some examples. Like I said, we do definitions. I'm not a big proponent of flashcards. I think it's honestly a waste of time, but you do need to know your definitions. What's more important is application because the exam is an accumulation of 185 applied examples. So I want to make sure that you can apply the concepts. And that is what we are going to do here. Stimulus control, our example, each time the phone rings, you answer it. This occurs repeatedly and reliably. So if the phone ringing controls your answering behavior, you can say that the phone has stimulus control over your answering behavior. So it's pretty straightforward. Stimulus discrimination, when the timer beeps, you check the food. When the timer is still counting down, you do not check the food. So you see the difference. Obviously, we can say that the timer beeping has stimulus control over you checking the food, but we can also say that you don't check it in the absence of that stimulus condition. So that's where we're coming to those two different stimulus conditions that are extremely important. So I want you to see the difference there, and I hope that's fairly clear. Simple discrimination, I used almost the same example so you can see the difference. So for simple discrimination, we have reinforcement is delivered when you present an array of 4 cards, the first being a carrot, the second being an apple, the third being an orange, and the fourth being a green bell pepper. You say touch the red one. Well, there's only one SD, it just has to be red. And there's only one item there that is red, that's the apple. So I want to be intentional here. Simple discrimination does not mean you're choosing between one thing. It means there's one SD. I still have an array of items. I can still select from an array because it's discrimination. Discrimination is telling the difference between things. So you still have to be able to discriminate. It's just that there's one SD, red. That's the SD that's going to provide reinforcement. Whereas conditional, we have that same example. However, we switch it up here. When it says, you say, touch the one that is red and round. So again, not only does the item that you touch have to be red, but it has to be round. Again, apple is kind of round enough, I'm considering it. So that's contacting reinforcement in that respect. So there you go. Somebody in the chat asked, is DTT conditional discrimination? Not in itself. DTT is its own thing. So discrete child training is just when you break a task down and teach it in small chunks. You can conduct simple discrimination trials during DTT, or you can conduct conditional discrimination trials during DTT. So you can do either. It just depends, is there one or two SDs operating? So that's the difference. All right. So this is kind of what we do. We go through this part and then we go ahead and jump into some scenario questions. I do read the scenario questions out loud, so if you don't like my voice, I apologize. But it is what it is. People watch this in the car, so that's what we're going to do. All right. Lisa and Garrett are diehard Swifties. When they heard about the Eras tour, I hope that's what it's called, they knew that they had to get tickets then and there. On drop day, they logged into their Ticketmaster account and found out that not only did they need to be in the ticket queue, but they also had to be verified fans. In relation to behavioral terms, reinforcement in the form of tickets is delivered when A, simple discrimination is met, B, conditional discrimination is met, C, stimulus control is met, or D, stimulus discrimination is met. Go ahead and put your answer in the chat. I have it set to where you can only chat me, so there's no reactivity. If you're driving, please don't put your answer in the chat. It's not worth crashing. I promise I will go through each one. All right, lots of answers in the chat. I like it. Thank you for the participation. And apparently either this was too easy of a question or I did a good job teaching. So I'm going to take it that I did a great job teaching. All of you are in agreement that this is conditional discrimination, and it is, right? Not only, right, that's kind of your key. There's two things that need to happen here. You need to be in the ticket queue and you need to be a verified fan. I don't know if this is really how it works, but my sister called me like 30 times asking to buy her Taylor Swift tickets. And I was like, dude, those are so expensive, not happening. So I didn't. I'm a bad older brother, I guess. But conditional discrimination is what's happening here. You have to be in the queue and you need to be a verified fan. If reinforcement was provided just for being in the queue, it would be simple discrimination. Stimulus control would be your email dings and then you join the queue. So if the email coming through controls your queue joining behavior, that would be stimulus control. Stimulus discrimination would be you are in the queue when tickets are available and you're not in the queue when tickets are not available. So two different antecedent conditions controlling your queue going behavior, I guess we could call it. So that's that. If you have questions, you can put them in the chat. We also have a little bit of time towards the tail end for questions. So please do that. If you're watching on YouTube, you can always email us info@behavioranalystsupervisor.com. JJ works with 3 different clients as their direct support staff. When he is with client A, he greets the client with ASL as the client is hard of hearing. In relation to client A evoking an ASL greeting, what can be said? Client A has stimulus control over the ASL greeting. JJ has achieved stimulus discrimination by only greeting client A with ASL. C, client A has taught JJ to respond using ASL. Or D, client A has reinforced JJ's ASL behavior, causing it to increase. All right, so a little bit split in the chat between A and B, which is pretty understandable. So if I were going through these, let's just start with D. Client A has reinforced JJ's ASL responding behavior, causing it to increase. We don't know. It doesn't say that the client responds back. Probably we can infer that it's being reinforced since it does say that he greets the client, so the behavior kind of continues. However, I'm adding information there. I don't want to add information. So D certainly is not the answer. So no one picked that. Good work. C, client A has taught JJ to respond using ASL. Again, nothing in here talks about the client teaching JJ, so picking that would be adding excess information. We don't want to add excess information because that gets us in trouble, so I'm going to eliminate that. B, JJ has achieved stimulus discrimination by only greeting client A with ASL. Does it say that in the scenario? That's making kind of a leap that I don't think it says. What it does say is when he is with client A, he greets them with ASL as the client is hard of hearing. It doesn't say that he doesn't greet the client with something else. It doesn't say that he greets the other clients with ASL. It doesn't talk about the stimulus condition changing. So I don't have enough information to say we have achieved stimulus discrimination. But also, besides that, because probably we have, I don't want you to infer, but again, we always need to answer the question being asked. This question says, in relation to client A evoking an ASL greeting, what can be said? So when you see a statement like that, that is basically the definition of stimulus control. When an antecedent stimulus reliably evokes a behavior, client A causes ASL greetings. Therefore, we can say that client A has stimulus control over ASL greetings, right? Always answer the question being asked. The question here again is that last sentence, which is stimulus control. We don't have quite enough information to answer B, like I said. Though those are very close, in order to answer B, we need to see some sort of change in antecedent conditions and a change in the behavior due to those antecedent conditions. So hope that makes sense. Last question. Long one. Sherry wanted to teach her learner that she can access video games when the green card is present and that she cannot access video games when the red card is absent. Oh, sorry, that should say when the red card is present. So I apologize. She presented the red card accompanied by a verbal prompt that stated, there are no video games when the card is red. She did the same with the green card, but stated that video games are available when the green card is up. Sherry systematically faded the prompts until her learner only requested video games when the green card was up and never when the red card was up. This scenario culminated with what being achieved? Stimulus control, stimulus discrimination, simple discrimination, or conditional discrimination. All right, so this is maybe the trickiest one, and that's reflected in the comments because there are every single answer present. So a few things when you're dissecting this question, we see the scenario culminated. That means the end. So the end of the scenario, what was achieved? Well, let's look at what the end of the scenario says. Sherry systematically faded the prompts until her learner only requested video games when the green card was up and never when the red card was up. So that looks like we're responding one way under a certain set of antecedent conditions and differently in the absence of those antecedent conditions. That's the definition of stimulus discrimination. That's the answer here, right? So you always want to, again, answer the question being asked. It's talking about the culmination, so that's just at the end. Stimulus control would be if it said at the end of the scenario, the green card caused Sherry to ask for the iPad or the video games. That's not what it says though, right? Simple discrimination would be if I say, touch the green card and you touch the green card. That would be simple discrimination. If I say touch the card that is green and on your left, that would be conditional discrimination. So we don't really have simple or conditional here, but what we do have is one behavior under a certain set of antecedent conditions and the absence of that behavior under a different set of antecedent conditions. So that's kind of the definition of stimulus discrimination. And that's what I mean. We can really understand these things, but you have to be able to apply them. Application is most important. Stimulus control is just when a behavior reliably evokes, when a stimulus reliably evokes a behavior. So if this said the green card causes her to ask for video games, then we can say the green card has stimulus control over her question asking behavior. So I'm going to turn my camera on. I'm going to do the wheel of names thing real quick. And then after I do that, we have a little bit of time for people to ask questions. And then I'm going to dip out and go watch football because it's Monday. So let me just put your names in. Give me about a couple minutes to do that. Not even, a couple seconds. This is like our biggest one, so I guess the time change was good. I know there's a lot of people on the West Coast that weren't able to attend on Wednesdays because of the timing. So I do hope this is helpful. If it's not, we can find a different time. But okay, hold on. I gotta scroll down. Holy smoke, so many names. We might have to adjust the prize ratio since there's more people. All right, I got everyone in. There are 32 people, including me. I have 31 entries, which is perfect. Spinning the wheel. And our winner is Miss Shelby. Miss Shelby, you are a winner. Congratulations. Shelby, I know you have an account, but if you don't mind, if you could email me to remind me that you won. I think I've already done the free mini with you. So what we'll do is we'll do just a 30-minute free tutoring session. So go ahead and send me an email and we can do that. You're still here, right, Shelby? You are. Okay, sweet. Congratulations. Long time no see. I hope you're doing good. Cool. Questions, y'all? Someone said, can you give an example of simple and conditional discrimination in real life? Yeah, definitely. If I'll use a different one than I used earlier, but if I say, go turn the water on, right? That's simple. Your behavior is simple discrimination. You just got to go turn the water on. If I say, go turn the hot water on, that becomes conditional because it has to be hot and you have to turn the water on. So there's two SDs operating. So that's the only difference there. Some tips to study OBM. So OBM is no different than section H or section I, so don't really look at it differently. Just because you're intervening with a organization doesn't mean that you should change how you intervene. What you should be doing is first find the function. So why is there a lack of employee performance? And then based on the function, implement a reinforcement first strategy. So the lack of performance is due to a lack of motivation. All right, well, let's go ahead and implement a token system that allows the employees to access paid time off. If that's reinforcing, right? We have to figure out what's reinforcing. So the same thing you would do with a client is what you should do with a organization. We do have a mini lesson on OBM. I went through 5 or 10 OBM based questions and kind of talked through that. So if you're a part of our All You Need, is included there. So feel free to check that out. Study materials for task list I. The best study material I recommend for task list I is the
BACB's Supervisor Training Curriculum 2.0. I'll put a link for it in the chat right now. A lot of people study the ethics code, obviously, because the ethics code is important. This is just as important as the ethics code. So you should memorize that just like it is. And obviously, we have a lot of materials to support that. We have a Section 9 boot camp, things of that nature too. So yeah, you're so welcome. Someone asked if I could explain stimulus transfer. So there's a couple different ways that this is implemented. I'm just going to explain one way, and then if I don't explain it right, send me an email and I'll explain the other ways. But when we think back to, I don't know if you are or you're not, but many of us likely were RBTs before we became DCAs. And in the RBT task list, there's this thing called stimulus transfer control or something like that. And basically what stimulus transfer is where we transfer stimulus control from my verbal SD or whatever to the actual stimulus in the environment, right? So if I have a client and they use the bathroom and then I say, okay, wash your hands, my verbal SD of wash your hands has stimulus control. I want to transfer that to the stimulus, right? And so what I would do is I would initiate prompt fading procedures to fade out my prompt. And eventually I want them using the bathroom to control them washing their hands. Or in other words, I want the bathroom or them voiding in the toilet to control their hand washing behavior. So that's kind of what we want to happen there. Awesome. Cool. So just a couple things. If you ever have questions that I don't get to on these, because I know we only have 30 minutes together, you can always email us, info@behavioranalystsupervisor.com. You can DM us on Instagram. You don't have to be a customer to do those things. Obviously, we think our materials are awesome and you should check them out. But ultimately, we're here to help people pass their tests. So if you have questions ever, feel free to email us. Feel free to DM us. Our email is info@behavioranalystsupervisor.com. Our Instagram is Behavior Analyst Supervisor. We post questions nearly every single day. And I'm going to start posting more reels. It's going to be like the first thing I do in the morning. I know I need to get on that. So awesome. I hope this was helpful, y'all. Like I said, my name is Miko. And yeah, I hope you'll like this. If you, whatever you want to go through next, feel free to let me know and we can start kind of creating that list. So take it easy. I'm going to go watch football and I have to grade papers. So I'll do that too. See y'all.